Hi, and welcome to What's the Worst That Could Happen. I'm Abby Whitaker, your host, and today I have the beautiful Tess here from Authentic Spoon, and I'm going to get her to tell us a little bit more about herself.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me. So my name's Tess. I am a mum of a beautiful 1.5-year-old girl named Andy. I am a dietitian and nutritionist by trade and the founder of Authentic Spoon Nutrition, which is a nutrition consultancy business for brands in the wellness space so that they can kind of expand their authority in this space. So we do a range of different things. I'm a bit of a helicopter sometimes, and I find it hard to niche down into one specific role or niche that I have because I just love trying new things and doing lots of different areas in the business. So I've kind of just recently come back to work after about 1.5 years off properly. So yeah, good time to have me on, I think. So
Amazing.
yeah.
I love it. So when you say you work with other brands to help them gain authority in the space, what do you mean by that?
So I guess I'll give you a bit of a nutshell of what I've done and what we do. So, how it kind of originally started is I created my Instagram, which is called Authentic Spoon. And that was just a blog, essentially, me just doing recipes and sharing nutrition things that I was learning while I was studying. And that kind of grew into a space for me to share nutrition education and then work with brands. So doing collaborations. So that's one element of the business. But then it's also helped me build the community. So I service private clients. So typically if you were to go see a dietitian, nutritionist or naturopath, you'd go to a clinic space, but I do it all virtually. So see them from the comfort of their own home. Then I also consult to hospitals. So a contract that I just finished up on was consulting to the private hospital here on the Sunshine Coast. I also formerly was the dietitian for U Foods, which is a national meal delivery service. So my role there was to help them with nutrition communications, product meal development, worked closely with their marketing team, just creating messaging around nutrition and that kind of thing. I've also worked with some influencers in the space. So a personal trainer called Michael Brunelli, who ran a fitness program during COVID. I did all the meal plans for his clients, and then we together sold digital products of generic meal plans and personal meal plans. I have also worked with a Chemist Warehouse exclusive brand called Bondi Protein. So I was an ambassador for that brand and then also helped them with their nutrition communications as well. So that's kind of a nutshell. So we do a few different things, but when I say helping them build authority, I think it's so important for brands in this space to maybe work with professionals so that their messaging is right.
Yeah.
So if you just created a product and you wanted to market it to a range of different audiences, just making sure that you get that messaging correctly. So I'm pretty big on evidence-based nutrition. So making sure that it's appropriate, if that makes sense. So, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like there's you could probably speak more to this. Actually, we'll probably touch on this later, but I'd love to rewind a little bit and learn a little bit about your story and your journey to where you started and then how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I actually originally started out doing a degree in multimedia. I would say I'm more a creative than a scientist. So that's how I first started. But while I was doing that degree, I developed PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome. And at the time I didn't know what it was. And I just experienced weight gain, acne, loss of cycle. And this, I grew up doing surf life saving, swimming, nippers, all the sports, always had lived healthy, active lifestyle. And then started to have these health problems when I think I was around 19. And then I just would spend my whole free time researching nutrition, how to fix my skin, how to eat to support my skin and all of those things. So then my mum was like, well, you're literally doing this 24/7. Why don't you go study this? So enrolled in university and then started doing the degree, which took me, it was 5.5 years or so. It's a 4-year degree. And then, that's kind of how it all started. And I also was really conflicted between what I was seeing online. So this was in the era of like clean eating. This was like paleo, Pete Evans, don't eat gluten, don't eat dairy. In that space, sugar. Like Belle Gibson era, I quit sugar. So you can imagine this young, impressionable 19-year-old girl. At the time, I was not eating gluten, not eating dairy. Like every other week, I was like, oh, maybe it's this that's causing the acne. Yeah, so I just went down this kind of rabbit hole, and I think there's a term called orthorexia, which is it's on the spectrum of disordered eating. So it's where you become like hyperfixated on certain foods or not eating certain things. So I think reflecting now, I think I definitely had some of that going on. So yeah, and then when I became a dietitian, when I was learning these things at university, I was like, oh my goodness, I can actually eat this or I can eat that. So I'm really passionate about making sure that women get the correct advice and don't just believe anything they kind of read online. So, because it can cause more harm than good, I think.
Oh, 100%. I feel like there's so much conflicting evidence on every single different thing in the nutrition space. Yeah. Like everything, like any kind of way of eating, all the rest of it. And that's what I was going to say earlier. It kind of like seems like there's a big grey area in the nutrition diet sort of space. Yeah. Okay, so you started there, you studied it, and then obviously you had this epic skill set because you had this like multimedia skill set in that time where social media was just kind of starting to become a thing. Yeah. And then you had this amazing science-based degree, but also sounds like a lot was from learned experience as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely the background in multimedia. Even though I didn't finish the degree, I think that has been like a huge catalyst for the way that I've practiced and ran my business. So at the time when I became a dietitian, there was only like a handful of dietitians on social media at the time. And, you know, people weren't doing online consultations. This was pre-COVID and people were doing social media, but it was kind of new, if that makes sense. Like, and when I first graduated, I had no revenue behind me. I just spent 5.5 years at university, did a 6-month placement all around Australia where I was funding that. I had no money when I first started. I think I probably had like $500 or something, borrowed $500 off my mum to get my accreditation because you have to obviously pay for your accreditation. And I just thought, okay, well, I want to see clients, but I don't want all the overheads. I don't want to be paying, like normally you'd like sublet a room or whatever. I was like, why don't I just do it online? And at the time I was like, oh, is this even allowed? Anyways, checked with the dietitian people who run the organization. They were like, yeah, that's fine. And yeah, just kind of have done things differently, again, I guess, compared to how you would typically do things. And then when COVID happened, I was already in that space to do that. So I feel horrible saying this because I know so many businesses struggled during that period, but mine kind of flourished then. Yeah. And yeah, like having that multimedia background, I would say I'm quite, my partner says opportunistic. So I see an opportunity and I'll go for it. Like every opportunity that I've had is because I've kind of asked the question, let's work together. Apart from New Foods, they approached me, but everything else was like, hey, this is the services that I can offer and add value to your business. And then we'll like pitch a proposal and then we'll go back and forth and it kind of happens. So yeah, I think the multimedia background is good because using different skills in that, you know.
Area, yeah. And I think just like from a business perspective, I speak about this a lot, but a lot of people have a passion for something and say that that's like that nutrition side of things, but they don't have like other skill sets, which sometimes doesn't lend itself as well to owning a business. Yeah. And I think sometimes it can be the cause of like businesses that start and don't like carry on and things like that because it becomes so overwhelming. So I could imagine that not to say that it probably hasn't been overwhelming at times, but I can imagine that was really helpful just to have, that sort of like varied skill set.
Definitely. Because traditionally how you would get clients as a dietitian, so I might just give a bit of background. So dietitians will typically work in a hospital setting, private practice, food industry or food service. So normally you kind of wear one hat. And if you were working private practice, so seeing clients face to face, you would typically be getting referrals from a GP or word of mouth or whatever advertising you do. But having the social media platform, I'm able to reach anyone in the world, essentially. I don't get many referrals from GPs because I just don't need to. Like typically you'd go around to all different GPs and like put on a morning tea and be like, please give me clients, essentially. I've never done that and I've never needed to. So I think, like thinking outside the box is really important for business. And like, I don't have a business background, but I think like you would be the same. Like some people just are business people. Yeah. You either have that business brain or you don't. And for me, I wasn't driven by money or revenue. I was driven by, I actually don't know. I think I'm just driven by success in terms of helping as many people I could, or doing, I don't know how to explain it, but like doing, like servicing people, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like when I work with a client and see the value that has added to their life. Yeah. Then I feel that drives me to then want to help more people, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. I feel like I thought about this in the early days of when I first opened my first studio, because I was like, I didn't intentionally, like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't intentionally do it to, I think it was just like, I was just like young and I was like, I need to do something. Yeah. And then when I did it, I realized that so much of what was driving me was just the experiences that the clients had, and it almost felt selfish in a way, because it's like I'm getting satisfaction from helping people, and like that's really cool, but like I was also like taking that satisfaction from that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's perfect though, because it's in like a lot of health professionals, Pilates is health essentially. So if someone comes to the studio and they've had a back injury, which I've had, and they've realized like how good this is making them feel and how it's reducing their pain or whatever, they're getting an outcome and you're getting an outcome. And it's like the whale and I don't know what the fish is called, but like they work with each other and they support each other. Yeah. They're getting a free ride, they're cleaning the skin or whatever. So you're both servicing each other. Yeah. Yeah,
definitely. Like, it was just like an interesting thought, because I was like, oh, it's really cool because you can help people on such a wider, a bigger level. Yeah. So you get that kind of like that feeling of helping people. Yeah. But you're also just like feeding your own, I guess, need to help people as well. Like that feeling of satisfaction from it.
It's a fulfillment. Like, and if you've ever had a job where you go home at the end of the day and you don't feel fulfilled, I feel like that's when you maybe need to change the direction of your path.
Yeah, definitely. I think if it's like a constant thing and you're just not happy, it's like when you're working like it's such a huge portion of your life.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, just do something else.
100%.
And it doesn't have to be starting a business. I think that some people are not like, they're not going to be their happiest selves running a business. And I think that it's very glamorized at the moment, is like having a business. And I think it's really cool. Like, I love it. Yeah. But there's definitely cons as well.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. What are some like roadblocks or challenges that you've had throughout your career?
I think probably the biggest one was one contract that I took on in the past. I was fairly new to the industry and my motto is like, say yes and then figure it out later. I said yes and had an absolute whirlwind trying to figure it out. And it was a large scale project and I didn't have the systems and the processes set in place in the business to deliver at that capacity. So that was a huge roadblock. But I guess it's reflecting now, it's a huge learning because now the systems and the processes are all set up smooth sailing. But that was probably the biggest one. And it definitely contributed to me experiencing burnout. So I'm not sure if I mentioned, but before I had my daughter, I was coming off the back of extreme burnout. And I think that's why I had so much time off, etc. Although having a baby isn't easier than working.
No.
So that was like, oh, burnout, and now let's raise a baby and a toddler. But yeah, so that was probably one of the biggest roadblocks. And then probably the other one was, I think just me figuring out how I wanted the business to be and what I wanted it to do, because like a lot of...
It's very unique.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even realize the scope of the things that you do.
Yeah. Even some of my colleagues, like dietitians in the industry, like, so what are you actually doing? And I'm like, oh, where do we start? Like, because it's multifaceted, if that makes sense. But so I've had business mentors and mentors in the past, and they have always been like, you need to niche down. Like, you need to just pick one and go with it, because then you'll attract more clients and you'll, you know, the benefits of niching. But I was like, I don't want to do that. I would get so bored. Like, my personality type is like, I'm bored. I need to try something new.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the way that the business is that I get to kind of wear all these different hats and do little bits of this, because I like all the different areas that I work in. And yeah, this one business mentor gave me like homework, and it was like, okay, pick a niche. And I was like, women's health. And they're like, not specific enough. Like, pick one. I was like, I just can't though. And it just didn't feel authentic to me and my values. So I was like, okay, thanks for the advice, but I'm just going to go with my gut feeling and my intuition anyway. So but yeah, that's been a huge roadblock too, because then sometimes I second guess myself thinking, oh, if I just do one thing, maybe I'll be less stressed and everything will be more streamlined, and you know, but
You're literally speaking my language. I feel like this is actually a quality of like a true entrepreneur though, because it's like there's that saying like, jack of all trades, master of none, and there's actually like a second part to that quote, which I can't remember, but it's like favoring the side of the jack of all trades. And I think that people just don't get sometimes that there is like a level of boredom that comes in with like really repetitive work. And I found that even when I was working in corporate before I was working in marketing, and I loved the job for the first few months, and it wasn't because I wasn't like dedicated or committed. It was just like, I just get bored of it. I'm like doing the same shit every day. And that's what I love about owning businesses, is like you can do different stuff. There's new challenges. Those challenges are like in different areas. You kind of have to pivot really fast because like the everything's changing so fast, like technology, all of that stuff. And then on top of that, there is also a point in a business where maybe that boredom starts to kick in there, because you feel like you've kind of like reached everything there as well. But then you also have that element of, like, I get it a lot, like, oh, you've got too much on your plate, you need to slow down, like you're going to get burnt out or whatever. And I'm like, I know, but like if I don't do it, then I'm just like, I just get so excited about things. And then I'm like, I'm bored if I don't do it. And I feel like, so it's just such this balancing act.
It's literally like you just read my mind and like my inner dialogue that I have every day. And it's like, say, when you're working in corporate, I don't know if you feel this, but once I learn something new or learn a new skill or start working in a certain space, once I feel like I've learnt everything that I can and I've added everything that I can to it, like, I'm like, what's next? Because I constantly have this, I would say I'm very hungry. Like, I'm hungry to learn. I'm hungry to try new things. And I feel like maybe people who don't have a business background, or I don't even need a business background, but when you, like, if you're working like a 9 to 5 at the moment, this is resonating with you, where you're feeling like, I'm not learning any new skills, I'm not getting any extra value out of this. I feel like that's your sign to like take that next step and leap, or maybe change directions or whatever, because it is so fulfilling, if that makes sense. And the whole jack of all trades, I think that that just resonates with me so much, because I'm like, okay, what's next? My partner's like, you just slow down. He's like, just take a breath, just sit on this for a while. But yeah, I just feel like I'm like an Energizer bunny when it comes to this stuff. And I love it, but it's a huge like barrier as well, because then that leads to burnout big time. So
yeah, totally. I feel that. I think as well, when you're saying like you're hungry for it, like I have this, I don't know where I got the saying from or where I thought of this or where it came from, but I remember there was like a point where everyone was saying you need to take something off your plate. And I was like, or maybe I could just like have a bigger plate.
Yeah.
And it's like, I am hungry.
Yeah.
Like,
outsource.
Yeah, exactly. So how does the running of your business look then? Like, do you have a team? What do you outsource? How do you manage that burnout piece?
Yeah. So it depends on what kind of contracts and what's happening at the moment. So let me just, for now, literally in the last 3 weeks, I've gone back properly to working. But prior to having Andy, I'd had probably 7 contracts going at once. So I had Bondi Protein going, YouFoods, my private clients, social media, collabs, working for Michael Brunelli, and
we're talking maths.
Yeah.
Michael, I was like,
Yeah. I say Martha, and then people are like, oh yeah, I know. Yeah. And then I also worked at a hospital too. So 7 things going on at once, which was chaos. But I don't have staff. I have contractors, depending on what I need help with. So I think I would have maybe about 6 or 7 different contractors working across those different things. So YouFoods, obviously I was doing that, and then the hospital I was doing, and then my private clients I was doing, but the contractors might help with nutrition communications, recipe development, admin, content creation, brainstorming ideas for like TikTok, social media, reels, that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's kind of how it looks. And then currently going back into the workforce after I had Andy, I would say when she turned 5 or 6 months, I was seeing private clients like a very, very small amount. Like I'd cap it maybe like 3 clients max, and then I'd consult to the hospital 2 once a week. So typically doing like maybe 8 to 10 hours a week, which was so lovely after working, building the business for 5 years, working some big days. So that was lovely. But then I also just I had so many health issues happen postpartum that I was like, this is too much. I need to actually slow down. And I just entered this motherhood era where I was like, I just want to be present with this. Like Andy's only going to be young for 4 or 5 years. Like, let's just enjoy this. And like, I know in my core, there'll be something to go back to and I'll figure it out. And I just thought like this time is only a short time. So got to slow down. But essentially now my thing now is like better balance. Like that's my motto for 2025. So I'm only doing two roles at the moment. So I've recently just started a new contract as a dietitian for Rare Body, which is an app that's literally just launched 3 weeks ago. And it's founded by Hannah Pearson, who's a very successful fitness influencer. I just approached her and I just said like, hey, if you ever need a dietitian, or pitch some ideas to her. And it just must have been divine timing, because she was doing the recipes herself and she was like, yes. So I'm doing that at the moment, which is a huge project. So I've just brought on 3 new contractors to start that with. And I'm still selling digital products or meal plans online. But that's all I'm doing. So if you see me in like a month and I'm doing more, please tell me to stop. Cause
I'm sorry, but I'm not your girl to
you'll
stop.
be like, no, you can take
My girlfriends are all like, it's your last day of work today. I'm like, I know. And then they're like, but you're launching a new business next week. I'm like, I know.
Yeah, what is it? Or is it?
I can talk about it because it'll be released.
Okay, cool.
I actually don't even know why it's a secret anymore. I was just saying to my one of my contractors yesterday, I was like, I don't know why I'm keeping so tight-lipped about this. Like, it's such a cool product. So it's a product-based business, and I've developed a journal for Pilates instructors.
So cool.
To do their class plans in.
Yeah.
And I guess the idea came from just seeing so many instructors, like obviously through my Pilates Academy and then also through the studios, just coming in, they've got like scraps of paper, like all this wasted time, like class planning, and then it's like never reflected on. So the journal has like a lot of mindset props. It's got like a lot of activities that you can do to like spark inspiration and things like that when you're feeling a bit stale. But then it's also got your whole class plan, and then there's a whole section where you kind of like can reflect on the class with little prompts as well, and even how maybe the clients responded to it, how you would change it for next time, so that you can always like go back to that. So
I love that. That's so cool. Is it a physical journal? Amazing.
Yeah, and it's like, it's beautiful. Yeah. There's also a notebook, like just a plain notebook. Yeah. I'm releasing, and then my plan is to release some other products as well after.
That's so
this
amazing.
First one.
There is so much like therapy in physically putting pen to paper, I think, and so many ideas you can have. Do you, with your business, are you someone who writes out things and writes out ideas and like has a notepad and is like, get it out of here, put it down there?
Yeah, I have to. Like I've tried notes, I've tried like online platforms and stuff, but I just, even though I am still trying to get a bit more into online platforms and organization through that way, I still feel like there'll always be a pen to paper first.
100%. Like I've used like Trello, Monday.com, or like the project management software, but nothing beats pen and paper. I'll do like a online list or whatever, and then still have a to-do list that's literally box tick. There's so much satisfaction in like physically widening it out.
I know, it's so good.
Yeah.
I'm like that too. And I think that there's studies, and I don't know them, but I'm pretty sure that there's studies that actually show that when you are learning and doing things, like actually putting pen to paper sticks in your brain more. So I feel like, I'm not opposed to potentially translating these like physical journals into like potentially some kind of system online. But I think to start with, I'm really just using my own, again, learnt experience and what's worked for me, and then made it beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because like I've worked with a psychologist for years. I think it's like the best thing ever. Everyone should be, just for like whatever is going on in your life. But part of that was my psychologist would say, these are like the self-reflection activities, but she wanted me to write them, not do them. Like she could send me a printout because I see her via telehealth, but she's like, I want you to physically write them out. So there must be something behind the actual process of writing it out. And it makes so much sense because I get my clients to do the same thing. So for those who are like in the clients I work with in like the eating disorder space, trigger warning, talking about eating disorders, maybe if you want to just put that in there. But, a client who might be experiencing binge eating, if it happens, I might ask them a range of different questions, get them to write it out after the experience to reflect on it. And then we go through it together. So it's definitely therapeutic. I think it's such a good idea. And I haven't heard of anyone doing that. So
well, that was the thing. It's like I love to think of new ideas and also like just seeing that gap in the space as well. Yeah. So hopefully.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I'm like, I want one. Can you make one for dietitians?
I actually do have this idea of potentially like collabing with like different industries to create, because I had a similar conversation with my hairdresser, and she was like, oh, I've just got this like little black book, it's all tattered and it's like everything's just everywhere. And I was like, oh, how cool would it be to just like collaborate and create one that's like for hairdressers. And
oh my god.
So we can
the world
chat.
Is your oyster.
But not right now because you've only having your 2 projects.
Yeah, so you're holding me accountable. Well, I feel like that's for now while Andy's still young, and I'm now in this new era of back to work and motherhood, which anyone who's had a child probably listening is like, that is a whole different basket. And like, oh my goodness, like how are people working full time with small children? You're amazing. Whoever's listening. But it's definitely tough.
I think I think like I'm going through this era too where I'm like really wanting to slow down, be present with this new baby coming along. And I actually kind of am seeing a bit of a pattern just out in the world of not just necessarily mums, but just people realizing like hustle culture's dead. And there's nothing wrong with like working hard and stuff, but it's like it doesn't need to be like the only way people are seen as successful is if they're hustling.
Yeah.
It's actually like you can actually have a balanced lifestyle, and I think that's what I'm really aiming towards, is finding a lot of balance. Because for me, I know like I've had Billy, she's 4 now. I've worked pretty much since I was like 6 weeks postpartum. That's like my personality as well, is just to like, I don't know, like just push things. But I think that having that permission slip to just slow down and not just like achieving in order to feel validated. And being a mum is like just as much of a thing to be celebrated as
100%
being a CEO.
Yeah. And I think like your position, you're so lucky that like you have the studios, they're all set up. You've got the academy, you've got things working in the background, and the business is not running itself, but you know what I mean? Like there's always things to be done, but it's moving. So you can take that time off if you need to, or you've done the hard yards, you know what I mean? So you've set it up, which is so amazing. So yeah,
I'm looking forward to my gardening
sourdoughing
trad wife life.
Oh my God, that would be so nice, wouldn't it?
So good. I actually sent my husband a chicken coop the other week.
Yeah.
And he was like, Abby, grow a herb first. Once you grow a herb, I'm like, okay, well, once I'm off work.
Your Nara Smith era. Have you seen her? She like makes bubble gum from scratch and everything.
Oh my gosh. Is this the farm chick?
No, that's a different one. Nara Smith's the one who wears the beautiful, like elaborate outfits in her kitchen and will make things like she makes that Japanese bubble tea. Like she makes the bubbles from scratch. Like very, like I love it as a foodie, like, and a content creator. I'm like, this is amazing. But yeah, I think she fits the trad wife mold, I think. Yeah. But I'm like, I ain't got time for that. Like, not right now. With a toddler pulling at my knees.
Bubbles, but like sourdough.
Yeah. Start with sourdough or a herb.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so back to nutrition a little bit. What do you see in the industry? What do you see in the industry that is problematic?
Oh, where do we start with this? I think you kind of mentioned this earlier. There's a grey area in nutrition, and you'll also get conflicting advice and opinions even in the health professional space. So some dietitians who are in my circle, they might practice in a way that I personally doesn't align with my values, and I'm sure I practice in a way that maybe conflicts and doesn't align with other people's values as well. So that's really hard for consumers or customers or whatever you want to call them, because they might get one piece of information from someone and then it goes against what somebody else is saying. So that's really tricky in this space. But my approach is I might give you advice and it might be different to the advice I give your partner, because you guys are completely different genetics, different goals, different like age, sex, just it's different. So it's problematic because I personally find that some practitioners will just stick to one thing and be like, this is it. It's black and white. Like, don't have this or don't have that. But I think that's problematic because we are all so different and unique, and what works for someone might not work for somebody else. And I think that's what is so important to me as a health professional, is understanding that lens. That, like, for example, if you were to go see a GP who would service a number of different people from all different walks of life, if the GP said to someone who, I talk about nutrition privilege, I'm not sure if you've heard me talk about that before, but if I was to say to like someone who lived in rural, like far north Queensland, who had very low health literacy, ate KFC, McDonald's, a lot of processed food every single day, and I was to say, here's your holistic cleanse kit. I don't want you to have this, that is just going to go way above their head. So I think understanding that everyone has unique needs is so important in this space. So like, I think it's fine. Like, there's certain health professionals that will practice under like more of a holistic umbrella or more like a generalized umbrella, which is totally fine because we're all different, but it can be problematic if it's not received in the right light to that person, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I feel like even just that example of that rural person, like the first thing I thought about was this concept of, and it fits across a few different areas, but this concept of like stacking, whether it's habits, supplements, like foods, whatever. And this idea that when you try to, on New Year's, you're like, okay, I'm going to lose 15 kilos. And you're like, I'm going to start by running like 3 times a week and doing this cleanse and doing this and doing that. And then you just fall off the wagon. Whereas if you can kind of like put it into bite-sized pieces where it stacks, it's a little bit more, I guess, I don't know, like achievable.
100%.
But then you might get someone who's like quite well educated, always eats from like a health food store, and like you don't have to stack up those habits. You're kind of like doing the last step, I suppose.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, there's a client that I recently worked with who had very, very good nutrition education, ate organically, worked out 4 or 5 times a week. So the suggestions and the advice that I give them would look very different to, say, someone who's just had a baby and is in postpartum, because their time and achievability of certain goals is going to be completely different to this person who maybe doesn't have kids. And it's
everyone's just so different,
so unique.
And what do you think about fad diets?
I think they're very problematic. Well, that was like back to my own experience. That was definitely me following fad diets. I think it was paleo that I was originally doing, which was no grains, no dairy, no refined sugar, all of that. That's a fad diet essentially. And I think that it can be very dangerous, especially with young girls on social media as well. And like, we're like 90s were the last generation to grow up without social media. So I just think about like you as a girl mom, especially, like, oh my goodness, what are we in for with like social media and all of that? Imagine like our daughter's going on and seeing a girl in like a bikini or whatever, and she's doing like a what I eat in the day video, and that's very problematic also. So there's a lot I would have to say about fad diets.
I feel like when I first saw you speak when we were on a panel together, one thing that you said that really stuck was about sustainability in your eating. And like, I think at the time someone had asked a question about keto and you were like, for me, it's just not sustainable because like I can't actually do that when I'm pregnant. When I'm breastfeeding. So like, that's
I
not.
remember that actually.
Yeah.
That was, so how I think about fad diets is, if you're thinking about going on this certain diet, whatever it is, can you eat like that if you're going out to lunch with your partner or your girlfriends, or are you trying to conceive, or are you pregnant, are you breastfeeding, are you training for a marathon? Like, all of those questions, most fad diets would probably be no, because they're not sustainable. So I think the best diet that you can follow is something that is inclusive, makes you feel good, and allows room for treats and, if you want to have a cocktail on the weekend or whatever, or is healthy in terms of, could you grow a baby on this? Keto, probably not. You need that fiber to help you go to the bathroom and all of the other things, and the vitamins and the minerals. So is it sustainable? Could you last on it for more than 6 months or 12 months? If the answer is no, then it's likely a fad diet.
So you might not be able to answer this, but if there was one way of eating that you would recommend to people, like, I know obviously everyone's very tailored, but just from like a very broad approach, what would that look like?
Probably, this is like, if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I wouldn't have had an answer for you, but the research that I've seen on something called the Mediterranean diet is probably the best overall diet that I can think of. It has amazing evidence-based literature behind it. Essentially, the Mediterranean diet is quite balanced in the fact that it supports all of the core main food groups. It has a really high intake of vegetables, fruit, fish, which is so amazing for like omega-3 fatty acids, DHA, all of that. It still includes dairy, but in smaller amounts. It still includes red meat, but in smaller amounts. And it has a high focus on healthy fats, so olive oil, nuts and seeds, and beans, lentils, legumes. And essentially overall, like if you were to look at it overall arching, it's high intake of plant-based foods, and then lean proteins, and then a lower intake of red meats, but a high intake of healthy fats. So there's no exclusions in that diet. It's actually on the pyramid of the diet. You can have red wine because of the polyphenols, which are an antioxidant. Or on like processed foods and all of that, it just says reduce, which I think is obviously so important. But it's not saying you can't have them because everyone wants to eat chocolate. Everyone wants to have some chips here and there or some pizza, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's probably the best one if anyone's interested in learning about it. And for women, I think it's so amazing for anyone with like hormonal issues, inflammation, as well as like cognitive. It's been shown for decreased risk in dementia, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease because of the healthy fats amount. So yeah, that would probably be the main one I'd go with. Yeah.
And I was just thinking about that, like, because a lot of the time when you go onto some kind of eating thing or diet or whatever, it's really hard when you're like in a family, you've got kids, you've got a husband, whatever. But that sounds like something that would be attractive to everyone in the family.
Yeah. It's achievable. Like I've seen, like even some of my friends will be like, oh, I'm following this like new diet regime, but it's so annoying because I have to cook my meal and then the kids and my partner's meal. Like they're making 2 different meals. I'm like, why are you doing that? You could, like the Mediterranean diet, like for example, if you were making like a lasagna, which you could just add in like grate 6 different types of vegetables into that meat and you've kind of made it Mediterranean, if that makes sense. It's about like working smarter, not harder with business, but also like nutrition as well. Like instead of removing this, how about we add this to it instead? Like for example, if you want to eat some chocolate after dinner, I'm like, all right, well, why don't you add like a handful of raspberries or blueberries with that chocolate, because you're getting more fiber, you're getting more nutrients, you're probably less likely to eat more chocolate. So it's just like simple strategies like that that make it achievable for people.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. Okay. What would be 3 tips that you'd give to anyone wanting to start a business?
Okay. I think action. Action is the biggest thing. Take action, because your ideas are great, but nothing's happening with them unless you take action, which is so big because I definitely sat on things for too long. Figure out your values and lead with them. So for me, a big one is authenticity. So obviously my business is called Authentic Spoon. I think you'll make really good decisions in business if you're authentic to your true self and those values. And the third one, which has never, ever let me down, is trust your intuition and go with your gut. I didn't listen to it once and it cost me a hell of a lot of money, and I will never make that mistake again. So yeah.
Totally. I'm going to add another one for you because I think you mentioned it before, but perhaps looking into your systems right from the start, because this is a big lesson for me too. I'm a big picture. I'm not like a systems girl. And having those systems set up right from the start makes everything so much easier, right?
So much easier. Sometimes it's so hard though because you don't know what system you're going to need as well.
And then when you set something up and then you realise you've done the wrong one and then you have to change it all over.
It's all these learnings. Talking about glamorizing business, like there's so many mistakes that I've made that I'm like, this is just a tiny error, but in the grand scheme of things on a large scale, it's actually a big problem.
It's like setting up your company incorrectly or like choosing the wrong emailing system, choosing the wrong website builder, choosing the wrong
Or one thing that happened to me was I didn't have my my business email, two-factor what's it called?
Authentication, yeah.
The email got hacked and I had all my food industry clients contacting me on that email. So I couldn't get into it and it was a shit show. Anyways, I had all these invites to like food events and things like that. And I was the rude person not replying because I literally couldn't get into the email. And it sounds so bad, but I use a Gmail account now.
Yeah.
And it's never let me down. And it's not professional because it's not like at AuthenticSpoonNutrition.com or anything. It's just literally at gmail.com.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's my OG email. That's got all my, back end stuff. So, yeah.
I think two-factor authentication is actually a great tip. I also got hacked into my Facebook a couple of years ago. And because your Facebook's attached to all of your Facebook ads, they went and because your cards are attached to your Facebook accounts as well, right? So they went and set up these, like they were selling these weird bras and stuff. And then they spent, I was really lucky because I have a friend who has a Facebook like marketing agency and he's got contacts, and he managed to get it sorted for me within 24 hours, but they spent $15,000 within 24 hours on ads.
Oh my God, imagine if you didn't know and it was like a week or something.
Yeah, I know. So
did you get any of those bras after all that?
No, well, like they were, I think how it works is they obviously use your money on ad spend and then they sell these bras, but they never send them. They're just like, it's just like a hoax.
It's fake, yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, it was a big lesson for me to be like, get your shit together. Like you need
that's tricky.
Two-factor because it's not only me who was impacted; it was my business partners.
Yeah,
it's like the integrity of the brand as well.
Yeah, that's so tricky. Oh, that's reminded me to go double check everything now. Yeah. Wow.
It's on the to-do list for today.
Goodness, yeah. Oh my God. One more thing.
Okay, what would be 3 tips you'd give someone wanting to improve their health?
I think just bring it back to basics, honestly. Like your 5 core needs is look at your sleep hygiene, get outside in the sunshine, get some vitamin D, start small with your diet. Just you don't need to do all of these things and take all these supplements straight away. Just maybe increase your vegetable intake, take care of your mental health, look at your circle, look at those supporting you around you, do the inner work. I feel like there's another one, and move. Movement. I think just the 5 basic principles. And it's, sometimes people ask me that, or I'll see a client and they'll be like, oh, I was expecting to be like sold all of these like supplements or programs or whatever, but I'm like, no, I just want you to have an extra cup of vegetables. And they're like, oh, okay. So just bring it back to basics, I think.
Yeah. And again, I guess that comes back to that habit stacking as well, because it's like what's actually achievable, maintainable, sustainable.
Yeah. Have you read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Yeah.
I like that one for clients. I feel like that's an easy to digest way of learning actionable habits, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I actually have it on my list to go back and read. Yeah. And highlight and all the things.
I listened to the audio version of it, just like I find like so easy if you're taking new baby on the in the pram and stuff. Yeah. Have a listen.
Yeah, I have a little list of PD. But sometimes you just don't feel like doing personal development outside of all the business stuff.
Sometimes I just put on like a funny, easy to digest podcast. Like I don't know, I like the Kick Pod.
Oh yeah,
just like funny stories and just easy.
Yeah, just funny stuff.
Have a break from the brain sometimes.
I do the like how I murder with my husband.
Oh, what like is that case files one? Or like a
it's kind of it's like like they just retell murder stories. Yeah. But then I get it overwhelms me like after a while and I have to take a break. Like I'm literally on like a 12-month break because then I'll be I'll just be out in the normal
Maybe,
world,
yeah,
and then I start narrating this murder that's gonna happen to me, and I'm like
over her shoulder.
Yeah.
Maybe not postpartum.
Little did she know.
Yeah. That's so funny. I'm obsessed with horror films and all that, murder docos and stuff like that. And my partner and I did a lap around Australia, and we were listening to the case files, and as we were driving, and then we'd be driving, and it'd be we'd be going through a remote town in WA, and then it would say, oh, the murder happened in this town. And then we'd have to sleep in our van that night, and we were like, yeah, no, I can't stay here. But yeah. Apparently it's good for anxiety though, is listening to really hectic podcasts, which I'm
Really?
I don't know if this is true actually, maybe don't quote me on it, or watching scary films because it makes your problems seem less, apparently.
Wow. I find that with reality TV.
Yeah.
I watch reality TV and then I'm like, bro, you guys are so messed up.
Well, my relationship's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true.
Oh, so funny. Yeah. That's really interesting. I'd love to know the science behind that, because I feel like for me, I'm not a super anxious person, but it makes me probably more anxious.
Yeah. Well, maybe if you've got any psychologists who are listening, tell me if I'm extremely wrong or I've just read this somewhere and it's been wrong. But yeah, maybe someone can leave a comment. Let us know if it's actually true, if it's true or not, or if I've just been making up a story.
So funny.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. I love that. So just going back to basics.
Yeah.
Is it 5 human needs?
I think so. Sleep, nutrition, movement, mental health, and I'm missing one.
Water? No.
Oh, that's 5. What was it?
You did say go outside.
Oh, yeah, sun.
Nature.
Yeah, sun, like nature. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, love it. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, we're coming to the end of this ep. Is there anything that we haven't spoken about that you would love to speak about?
Not particularly. I just think, obviously, people who are listening to your podcast, whether you're a business owner yourself or you want to start a business, I think what you're doing is so amazing. Just having these conversations and chatting to people, and if you don't ask, the answer's going to be no. So just step out of your comfort zone, take action. Whatever ideas you have are so good. Just do it. Just take that leap and do it.
Be an opportunist.
Yeah. And make connections with people, and genuine connections. You and I met at Tara's self event, and then obviously you've asked me to come on, and just building connections and make like-minded friends with people in the industry. And I feel you can learn so much from other disciplines as well. Yeah, I think it's just so important. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And
no worries. I actually have another question just popped up for me. What is trending in the industry right now, in the nutrition dietetics world? What fads are trending, and how can we stop them? You know what I mean?
I don't know if it's because the people that I follow now are all very sound, if that makes sense. I follow a few, but I kind of have curated my feed to get rid of the noise, if that makes sense.
I actually think that that's a great tip, is to unfollow people who just don't make you feel good.
If
or align with values.
Yeah, 100%. Although I do follow a lot of accounts on my business page, because there's lots of people in the wellness space, but there didn't used to be. So bringing it back to your question is that I think when I first became in the industry, not many dietitians were on social media, but now a lot of dietitians are, and nutritionists, because it's such a great way to market your business. And I think collectively the community of dietitians and nutritionists has helped kind of break through that noise and call out those kind of fads as well. So I feel 5-10 years ago there was way more conflicting advice in there, where I feel it's a lot calmer now. Yeah, I literally can't even think of any trend at the moment that's triggered me. Maybe I saw a water fast the other day or something ridiculous, or an electrolyte fast or something. But that was pretty hushed down pretty quickly by some people in the industry. I used to call out people all the time, not in a mean way, but I'll just make a joke out of it, do a funny TikTok or something, take the piss kind of vibes. But I don't really do that anymore because I don't need to as much. So I think that's really good.
Yeah. That's probably a reflection of your own self-growth.
Yeah.
Because I think obviously like it's brave to speak up
Yeah.
where you feel like misinformation is being spread, but also sometimes I say this to my husband, I'm like, well, what's the goal?
Yeah.
Because like if the goal is to like genuinely like you think people are being educated or like learning something that's going to genuinely affect them.
Yeah.
I get it. But then if it's like just an ego thing, then it's like let them, you know?
I think if it's like, for me, it was like back then, it was like, is this information going to cause harm to people? Yes, no. If the answer is yes, then back in the day, I might have been like more obliged to maybe be like, oh, this is trending. Like, guys, maybe don't do this. But if it's not really like that important, I'm like, whatever. Like, it's not really causing harm to anyone. So,
totally.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like that. I think that I see that too. I think that, I mean, in our world, we live on the sunny coast. Like, I feel like there seems to be a really health conscious. And like a lot of education. People are a lot more educated, and maybe you see something differently. I'm not sure, but I do feel like there seems to be a more healthier mindset around all of these kinds of things, which I think is really great as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we are, I would say, like back to that nutrition privilege, the Sunshine Coast and the clientele that I work with is quite nutritionally privileged in that respect. Like, for example, when I did my placement and I lived in like Far North Queensland for a bit and Roma, there's a different health literacy in those communities. So how I practice is different depending on the client's background as well. So we are super privileged here on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, I actually found that. So when I opened in Cloak Lounger 7 years ago, I come from Brisbane.
Yeah.
And I had like managed studios there and stuff. And it was really interesting to notice how much more active people in the Sunshine Coast were just on their own accord.
Yeah.
And so as a result, the average amount of times that people go to the gym or go to Pilates in a week is lower because they're actually like walking or running or doing these other things outside of that. Whereas in Brisbane, a lot of people, it's like, you know, they just wake up early, go to the gym, work, or come to the gym or Pilates, whatever, after work. And so like the amount of times that they would actually go to a facility to train was so much higher because their general lifestyle wasn't as active.
That's so interesting. So like if you're thinking about opening a new studio, you kind of have to really do a lot of market research into the area. And it makes sense because say if you had a Brisbane studio in the city, you're less likely to want to go walk around the city. You're more likely to want to go walk along the beach down here. So I didn't even think of that.
But then it's not like it's like less beneficial to have a studio here because there's also that mindset around having a more active lifestyle where people are a bit more, if they do sign up to something, even if it is 2 times a week instead of 3 or 4 times a week, they're more committed long term than people in Brisbane because they might be like doing something 4 times a week. It's the only thing that they're doing. Then the next shiny thing pops up and then they're on to like the next trend. Yeah. So it is, even to like that small amount of space, you know, like an hour difference or 2 hours difference is a big difference. And then even regional, the way that I've noticed, because we've got our studio in Kingaroy, is that it's a slow burn, but the clients are more loyal.
It's that country community vibe.
Yeah, so it's really interesting when you like step away from just working in the business and you start looking at how people work, the psychology of people, like what their kind of lifestyle is and how you need to like cater differently even though it's the same product.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if there's nothing else, I feel like we can wrap it up there. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me.
I've learnt so much.
Yeah.
Go look up the Mediterranean diet. Yep. Actually, I kind of know what it is.
Yeah. I feel like I spoke about that maybe at the event that we first met at. Yeah.
I was breadcrumbing you to to mention that. Yeah. But yeah, I'm part Greek, so like,
yeah,
it should come naturally to me.
Love a bit of olive oil.
Yeah, I love a bit of olive oil.
I'm like, what's a tablespoon? I'm just like, pour the bottle.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And all the best for baby. And
thank you so much.
I'm just glad you didn't go into labour while we recorded this.
I know, I wasn't sure. Yeah. Honestly, this morning I was like, something's going on.
I was like, we're pretty close to the hospital if need be.
Exactly. I was like, she's in the health space.
Yeah,
she'll sort it out.
I know, Mo. I know what to do.
She just have to get me down the stairs because the elevator isn't working.
Oh, yeah. Also, I didn't think of that. Actually be good, though, for like getting baby to descend. I did some stairs when I was in labour, actually. But
I have like a little bit of pubic symphysis, though, so it's like
the worst.
a bit painful. But yeah. Maybe just open it up more.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.